Hi, my name is Gregory MMT. I'm going to perform manual muscle testing. This is my patient. First, I'm going to position my patient in sitting position, shoulder abducted, the elbow extended, the forearm in supination. Now, the second part, I'm going to stabilize proximal to the joint being measured, which is the elbow, distal to the humerus, and I'm gonna use my two finger. I'm gonna palpate the bicep, which is I'm gonna be measuring, and I'm gonna ask my patient to touch the shoulder where I feel it. Now, can you touch the shoulder for me? Okay. Now relax. Now I stabilize. Now I feel the bicep is working. Now based on that, I already know my patient is a 3 out of 5. Now what I'm going to do, now my patient can be more than that, but I don't know yet. Now I'm going to apply resistance. I'm going to apply minimal resistance, a 3 plus, a MAD, a 4, a max, which is a 5. Now how I'm going to do that? I'm gonna ask my patient to touch the shoulder again. Now I stabilize the humerus, distal from the humerus, proximal to the joint. Now I'm going to apply the resistance. Where I'm gonna apply the resistance, I'm going to apply the distal end of the vulna of the forearm. Now I'm going to apply the resistance. First, I'm going to start by the minimal, the 3 plus. She still can resist. I apply the MAD, a 4, a max, which is a 5, and she's still not break. Okay, relax. Now I have to grade my patient is a 5 out of 5. I applied the 3 plus, the 4, and the 5. She was able to tolerate, she handled my resistance. So her grade is a 5 out of 5. Now my patient is in a different position. Now my patient is in supine position. I'm going to do manual muscle testing of the elbow flexion. Now my patient is in supine position. I'm gonna elbow extended, shoulder abducted to 90 degrees. Elbow extended, forearm in supination, the shoulder external rotated. Now I'm going to stabilize the humerus proximal to the joint being measured, which is the elbow, distal to the humerus. I'm gonna use my two finger and I'm gonna palpate the bicep and observe. Now I'm gonna ask my patient to touch her shoulder. Can you touch your shoulder for me? Good. Now I know the bicep was activated, it's working. Now automatically with gravity eliminated, my patient is a 2 out of 5. Now she can be more than that. Now I'm going to apply resistance to see if she more than 2 out of 5. Now I'm going to apply the resistance and proximal to the wrist and distal to the forearm. I don't know if you can still see it. I'm going to apply resistance. Now I'm going to start resistance with the minimal resistance, which is a 3 out of 5, a 3, a 4, and a 5. Now I already know she's a 2 out of 5. Now I'm going to apply resistance. I'm going to let her know to resist me. Now resist me. Start with the minimal, a 3. Now I apply a MAD. Now she break. Now that's automatically give her a 2 plus over 5 because she was able to touch her shoulder with no resistance. That gave her a 2 out of 5. And now when I apply resistance, minimal resistance, she didn't break. And when I apply mad resistance a 4, she break. Now I have to grade her a 2 plus out of 5, gravity eliminated. Now I'm going to do elbow extension. Patient positioning in prone position. Shoulder abducted to 90 degrees. Elbow flex to 90 degrees. Forearm in neutral position, perpendicular to the floor. Now the next one, I'm going to stabilize proximal to the joint, underneath, proximal to the joint, and distal to the humerus. Now I'm going to use my 2 fingers. I'm going to palpate and feel the tricep and observe. Now I'm going to ask my patient if she can raise her arm up all the way to here. Now when I stabilize, you get that? You're gonna go up with your arm. Okay, now I stabilize. I use my 2 fingers, palpate and observe the tricep. Now go up all the way. Good. All right, now relax. Now I know from that, with gravity added, my patient is the 3 out of 5. She can be more than that. Now I'm going to apply resistance. Now the way I'm going to apply resistance, I'm still gonna keep my patient in prone position, shoulder abducted to 90 degrees, elbow flex to 90 degrees, forearm in neutral position, perpendicular to the floor. I'm going to stabilize the humerus, proximal to the joint and distal to the humerus. Now the patient is gonna go all the way up. I'm gonna bend, flex the elbow just a little bit. I'm going to start applying resistance. I'm going to start with a minimal resistance, a mad and a max, which is the 3, a 4, and a 5. Now don't let me push you down, okay? You're going to resist me. You got that? Okay. Now I start with a minimal resistance. She can handle it. Minimal resistance, she can handle it. Now mad is 3 plus 4 and 5. She didn't break in any of those numbers. Meaning my patient, I'm gonna grade her a 5 out of 5 elbow extension with gravity added. Now I'm going to do gravity eliminated, no gravity added. Now I'm going to reposition my patient in supine position. Okay, turn. Now it's elbow extension. Now my patient is in supine position, shoulder abducted to 90 degrees, elbow fully flexed, forearm in supination. The shoulder is abducted, external rotation, elbow fully flexed, forearm in supination. Now I'm going to stabilize underneath here. Going to stabilize underneath. I'm stabilized proximal to the joint that being measured, the elbow, and distal to the humerus. Now I'm going to use my 2 fingers. I'm gonna palpate the tricep, and I'm gonna have my patient go all the way like this for me. Now go ahead. There we go. And I feel it. The tricep is working. Now with gravity not added, my patient is a 2 over 5. She can be more than that, but I don't know yet. Now I'm going to apply some resistance to see if she can be more than 2 over 5. I'm going to do the same procedure. shoulder abducted, external rotated, fully flexed, forearm in supination. I'm going to stabilize the humerus. I'm going to stabilize the humerus. I'm going to stabilize the humerus. Now, I'm gonna have her hold the elbow extended. I'm going to apply resistance where I stabilize the humerus, resistance in the distal of the forearm proximal to the wrist. I'm going to apply resistance. I'm going to start with the mean resistance, 3 and a 4 and a 5. I apply minimal resistance. She can handle it. Now I apply mad resistance and she break. Now, based on what the patient showed me, my patient is a 2+/5 with no gravity added. Is a 2+/5 with no gravity. Now we're going to test supination. Supination, now I'm positioning my patient. Patient is sitting in sitting position, shoulder abducted, elbow bent to 90 degrees, forearm in full pronation. Forearm in full pronation is gonna be parallel to the floor. Forearm is full pronation. Now I'm going to stabilize. Now I'm going to stabilize and look for the muscle that I want to be supinated, which can be my bicep or the dorsal of the forearm where I find my supinator right here. Now what I do, I'm going to ask my patient to turn the arm all the way to supination to know what's her grade. Now I stabilize. I'm gonna use my finger to feel. Now can you turn your arm the way I just told you? Now I feel the muscle, that's good. Now I feel the muscle, it's working. Now based on that, the patient is already 3/5 against gravity. Now she can be more than that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to apply resistance. I use the same procedure, shoulder abducted, elbow bent to 90 degrees, the forearm in full pronation. Now I'm going to stabilize the humerus proximal to the joint, to the elbow joint, distal to the humerus. Now I'm going to apply resistance. Now the way I'm going to apply resistance, I'm going to apply resistance proximal to the wrist, distal to the forearm. I'm going to put my hands right here and stabilize. Now don't let me turn your arm that way. Now I'm going to apply the resistance. My resistance, I'm going to start with the 3+, a 4, and a 5 to know her grade. Now I go, don't let me turn your arm. I go 3+, 4, 5. Now she didn't break. Now against gravity, I will grade her a 5/5 because she was able to not break when I apply the resistance, the minimal 3+, a 4, and a 5. Now I'm going to do a gravity eliminated, no gravity added. Now I'm going to reposition my patient. Now I have to reposition in my patient. Patient is still in sitting position. I use a table for the arm where the shoulder is at 90 degrees. Shoulder is at 90 degrees, abducted, and the elbow bent to 90 degrees, forearm in full pronation. Now I'm going to use my finger to feel my supinator, which can be the bicep or the dorsal of the forearm, the supinator. Now I'm going to stabilize underneath here stabilize proximal to the joint being measured, which is the elbow, and distal to the humerus. Now I'm going to ask my patient to turn all the way while I'm palpate and observe the supinator work. Now can you turn your arm? Now I can feel it, it's work. Now automatically that gives my patient is 2 out of 5, no gravity added. Can she be more than that? I'm going to check. I'm going to use the same procedure. Patient in sitting position, shoulder at 90 degrees, elbow bend at 90 degrees, full pronation of the forearm. Now I'm going to apply resistance. I'm going to stabilize first. I'm going to stabilize the humerus. Stabilize the humerus. Now proximal to the elbow, distal from the humerus. Now I'm going to apply my resistance where my close proximal to the wrist, distal to the forearm. Now I'm going to tell my patient, don't let me turn her that way. Now she's gonna have to resist. Don't let me turn you that way. Now I'll go 3 plus. Now I'm gonna go to 4 and she break. Now as she break at 4, she was able to tolerate the 3 plus that I gave. Now automatically patient, no gravity added, patient is 2 plus out of 5 for supination. Now we're going to do forearm pronation. Now the forearm pronation, I'm positioning my patient first. Patient in sitting position, shoulder abducted, elbow bend to 90 degrees, the forearm in full supination, the forearm in full supination. Now I'm going to stabilize and palpate to find the pronator teres to see if it's working. Now I'm going to have, when I stabilize, I'm going to have my patient turn the forearm all the way that way. When I ask you to do, you're going to turn your arm all the way this way, okay? Now I stabilize the humerus proximal to the elbow, distal from the humerus. Now I'm going to palpate and observe the pronator teres and the volar side of the forearm. Now can you turn your arm the way I just showed you? All the way. Now I feel it. Now I feel it. It's walking. Now automatically against gravity, patient is a 3 out of 5. Now can she be more than that? I'm going to check. I'm going to use the same procedure. Shoulder abducted, elbow bend 90 degrees, full supination. Now I'm going to stabilize the humerus proximal to the elbow. Now I'm going to apply resistance proximal to the wrist, distal to the forearm. Now I'm gonna ask my patient, don't let me turn you that way. I'm going to apply the resistance 3 plus, 4 and a 5 to see if she's not gonna break. Now don't let me turn you. I stabilize. Now go with 3 plus, 4, 5. She didn't break, meaning patient is a 5 out of 5 because I applied the 3 plus, she didn't break. I applied a 4, she did not break. I applied 5 and she did not break. Patient is a 5 out of 5 against gravity. Now I'm positioning my patient where I put the table to support the arm. Patient is still in sitting position. Now the shoulder is flexed 90 degrees. The shoulder flexed 90 degrees. Elbow flexed to 90 degrees. And the forearm is going to be in full supination perpendicular to the floor. Now I'm going to apply resistance and palpate to look on the volar side of the forearm, looking for the pronator teres. Now to feel it, now when I feel, I'm gonna ask my patient to turn the arm all the way like that. Now I stabilize. Now I palpate and feel the pronator teres. Now can you turn your arm the way I just showed you? Good. Now, as my patient can do that, I know automatically no gravity added. My patient is a 2/5. Now, I'm going to see if she can be more than that. I'm going to do the same thing, same procedure. Patient still in sitting position, shoulder flex at 90 degrees. Elbow bend 90 degrees, full supination of the arm, and I'm going to stabilize the humerus proximal to the elbow. Now I'm going to apply resistance. I'm going to put resistance proximal to the wrist, distal to the forearm, and I'm going to ask my patient, don't let me turn your arm that way. I'm going to apply the resistance. I go at 3, 4, and patient no gravity added. The patient is a 2+/5. The reason why I grade her that way, because she was able to tolerate my minimal resistance was a 3+, but she couldn't handle the 4. Now we're going to do shoulder. Now we're going to do shoulder flexion. Patient is positioning in sitting position. Sitting position. I'm gonna turn you that way so you can see it with the camera. Now, shoulder abducted, internal rotated, the forearm in pronation, elbow relaxed. Now I'm going to find the anterior deltoid. To find the anterior deltoid, I'm going to palpate the superior of the clavicle down below the clavicle. This is my anterior deltoid, the head of the humeral. I feel it on the anterior side. Now I'm going to stabilize. I'm going to stabilize above the joint that being measured. Above the joint that being measured, I'm going to stabilize the trunk. Now when I stabilize, I'm going to ask my patient to go with your arm all the way right here, which is at 90 degrees. 90 degrees. Now you can relax. Now when I ask you to bring your arms up, you're going to go all the way to your shoulder level, okay? Now I'm going to stabilize. I'm going to palpate and observe the anterior deltoid. I feel it right here. I'm not going to lose it. Now you go all the way up to your shoulder level. Now I can feel the anterior deltoid is activated. It's working. Now automatically my patient is a 3/5 against gravity. Now can she be more than that? I'm going to check. Now I'm going to apply some resistance. Now I'm going to apply a 3 plus a 4 and a 5. I'm going to use the same procedure here. Shoulder abducted, internal rotated, forearm in pronation. I'm going to stabilize above the joint that being measured, which is the trunk. I'm going to stabilize the trunk. I'm going to stabilize the trunk. I'm going to ask my patient to raise her arm all the way up to her shoulder level. Now I'm going to apply resistance. Where I'm going to apply resistance, I'm going to apply resistance distal to the humerus. Distal to the humerus. Now proximal to the elbow joint. Now I'm going to apply the resistance, a 3 plus, she can take it, a 4, she can take it, a 5, she can take it. Automatically, my patient, she can take it, the 3 plus, a 4, and a 5. My patient is 5 out of 5. I have to grade her 5 out of 5 for shoulder flexion. Okay, now I will position in my patient where I eliminate the gravity. Now I'm going to use the same procedure. Now I'm still gonna measure shoulder flexion, but no gravity added. Now shoulder still adducted, shoulder adducted, internal rotated, and the forearm in pronation. Now I'm going to stabilize the trunk. I'm going to stabilize the trunk, and first I'm going to palpate the clavicle, down the clavicle. I find the anterior deltoid. The anterior deltoid is right here. I'm gonna feel it and observe, palpate and observe to see if it's working. Now, when I find it, I'm gonna stabilize. I'm gonna ask my patient to go here, up to shoulder level, which is gonna be at 90 degrees. Shoulder flexion up to 90 degrees, and I'm going to see if the anterior deltoid is working. Now, I palpate above the clavicle, down there, find my anterior deltoid. Now, I find my anterior deltoid. I'm going to stabilize the joint above. Now, which is the trunk. I stabilize the trunk. Now, I'm going to ask my patient to go all the way I just asked her to do, all the way to your shoulder level, right here. Okay, now I feel it. You can relax. Now I feel the anterior deltoid is working. My patient with gravity eliminated. My patient is a 2/5. Can she be more than that? I'm going to check. Now I'm going to do the same procedure. Shoulder abducted, internal rotated, the forearm in pronation, elbow relaxed, and my patient is gonna go all the way above shoulder flexion to 90 degrees, and I'm gonna apply the resistance. Proximal to the elbow, distal to the iris. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to stabilize the trunk because I don't want her to do any movement. I stabilize the trunk. Now, bring your arms up again. Right here. Now, I'm going to put the resistance. Now, I'm going to start with the 3+ and 4 and 5. Now, I'm going to apply the resistance. The 3+, she can take it. A 4, my patient shoulder flexion is 2+/5. My patient shoulder flexion is 2+/5. Now I will position my patient. We're going to measure shoulder extension. Patient is in prone position, shoulder adducted, internal rotated, and the forearm elbow relaxed, forearm in pronation. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to find my teres major. Where I'm going to find it is going to be in between the armpit. It's just hard to find. It's right here. If I move, and I can feel it when she starts moving, I can feel it. So I'm going to put my 2 finger on it. I'm going to palpate and observe. Now I'm going to stabilize. I'm going to stabilize above the joint that's being measured. Now I'm going to stabilize, not on the shoulder joint. I'm going to stabilize the trunk. Now I'm going to ask my patient to raise her, go all the way as she can, like this, with her arm. I try and feel it again. I feel the teres major. I'm gonna palpate and observe, stabilize the trunk. Now can you go up with your arm? Okay, now you can relax. Now I feel it. I can feel it with my tactile cue. Now my patient against gravity is a 3/5. Shoulder extension. Can she be more than that? I'm going to try. I'm going to measure if she can be more than that. Yes, she can be more than that. I don't know yet. I'm going to try. Now, still the same position, prone position, shoulder adducted, internal rotated, forearm in pronation, elbow relaxed. Now I'm going to stabilize. Now I'm going to apply the resistance. Now I'm going to apply the resistance on the joint proximal to the elbow, distal to the humerus. Now when she go up, I'm going to apply minimal resistance, 3 out of 5, 4, and a 5. Now can you go up again? Now don't let me push you down, okay? Resist. Now I'm pushing down. She's a 3, 4. Now she's breaking at a 4. I'm gonna have to give my patient as a 4 out of 5 shoulder extension with gravity added. Now I'm going to be positioning my patient on the side so I can eliminate the gravity. Now I eliminate the gravity. Now I'm going to measure no gravity added. Now my patient is on the side, shoulder abduction, internal rotated, forearm in pronation, elbow relaxed. Now I'm going to palpate. If my patient move her arm back, I can feel the teres major right here. I feel it. Now when I feel it, I'm gonna stabilize the stroke. Not the joint that's being measured, which is the shoulder. I'm gonna stabilize above the joint that's being measured. And I'm gonna ask my patient to go straight with her arm back as much as she can. And while I'm palpating and observe the teres major. Go ahead. Can you go all the way? Now I feel it. It's working. Now stabilize. Now you can go back. All right, relax. Now based on that, my patient is 2 out of 5. No gravity added. 2 out of 5. Now I'm gonna see if she's more than that. Same procedure. Patient shoulder adduction, elbow relaxed, forearm in pronation, shoulder internal rotation. Stabilize the trunk. Now I'm going to ask my patient to go back exactly the same way, not in adduction. Keep the shoulder adducted to you, close to you, and you just go back. Now go ahead. Now I'm going to apply the resistance. Proximal to the elbow, distal to the humerus. I'm going to go 3 plus 4. My patient is a 2 plus over 5. Gravity eliminated. No gravity added. All right, now we're going to measure shoulder abduction. Now I'm going to positioning. I put her in the back so you can see it better. Now shoulder is gonna be adducted, the elbow relaxed, and the forearm in neutral position, meaning the palm of the hand is facing her trunk. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to palpate to find the middle deltoid. I'm gonna palpate and observe. But to do that, I'm going to stabilize the joint being measured, which is the shoulder. I'm gonna stabilize the trunk, and I'm gonna ask my patient to raise her arm all the way above to shoulder level, which is shoulder abduction to 90 degrees. Now, let me place myself on the side so you can see better. Now, I'm palpating and I feel the head of the humeral, the middle deltoid. Now, I stabilize the trunk. Now, can you go up with your arm? Good. Now, I feel the middle deltoid, it's working. Now, I can remove my hand. Now, from now, my patient, from doing that, patient is 3/5. Now she can be more than that. I'm going to measure to see if she more than 3/5. Now I'm going to use the same procedure. Shoulder adducted, elbow relax, the forearm in neutral position, palm of the hand facing the trunk. I'm going to stabilize. And the hand that was being palpating the middle deltoid, I'm gonna apply the resistance with the hand proximal to the elbow, distal to the humerus. Now, can you bring your arms up to 90 degrees? She raise up to 90 degrees. I'm going to apply the resistance. Now, don't let me push you down. I apply resistance. 3 plus, 4. I'm still applying 5. Now, my patient shoulder abduction is 5/5. Now I'm just repositioning my patient. Nothing's gonna change, just the gravity, no gravity added now. Now I'm going to measure shoulder abduction with no gravity. Now patient is in supine position, shoulder adducted, elbow relaxed, the forearm in neutral position, the palm of the hand facing her trunk. Now I'm going to palpate. I'm going to palpate the middle deltoid. I'm going to palpate the middle deltoid. Now I find the middle deltoid. I'm going to stabilize the trunk, the joint above what I'm being measured, stabilize the trunk. I'm gonna feel the middle deltoid. I'm gonna ask my patient to raise her arm all the way to shoulder level. To your shoulder level, you're gonna raise your arm to your shoulder level. No, right here, to your shoulder level. Now, I want her to raise her shoulder up to 90 degrees. Now, I'm gonna place my finger back, look for my deltoid, the middle deltoid, place my hand, stabilize the trunk, and I feel the middle deltoid with my finger. I'm gonna palpate and observe. Now can you raise your arm? And right here. Now I feel it, the muscle is working. Now with no gravity, my patient is 2/5. I'm going to check if she can be more than that. Now I'm going to apply some resistance. I'm going to apply the minimal resistance, the 3 plus, 4, and a 5. Now I'm going to use the same procedure, nothing changed. Shoulder adducted, the elbow relaxed, forearm in neutral position. I'm going to stabilize the trunk. Now the hand that was palpating for the middle deltoid, I'm going to apply the resistance distal from the humerus, proximal to the elbow. Now can you raise your arm? Now I'm going to apply some resistance. I put my hands here. I'm going to apply some resistance. I go minimal resistance. 4. She break. When I'm about to apply 4, she break, meaning my patient is 2 plus over 5 with no gravity added. All right, now I'm going to measure external rotation and internal rotation as my patient already positioned in prone position. Now, first of all, I'm going to do external rotation of the shoulder joint. Now, patient is in prone position. I'm gonna elbow at 90 degrees. No, shoulder at 90 degrees, elbow flex at 90, and the forearm in neutral position. The forearm in neutral position. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to palpate to find the teres minor on the border of the scapula, axillary scapula. Find my teres minor. Now when I find my teres minor, I'm going to stabilize where I'm going to stabilize the distal of the humerus proximal to the elbow joint, and I'm going to ask my patient to go up like this with her arm. Now let me put myself here a little bit better. Now I'm gonna palpate and observe the teres minus. Now I find it. I'm gonna stabilize the humerus distal to the humerus. Now can you raise your arm up? Good. I feel the teres minus. The muscle is working. Now okay, let go. My patient is a 3/5 with gravity. Now I'm going to see if my patient is more than 3/5. I'm going to apply some resistance. Where I'm going to apply some resistance, I'm going to apply resistance distal to the forearm, proximal to the wrist. Now I'm going to use the same procedure. Patient is in prone position. Shoulder abducted to 90 degrees, elbow flexed to 90 degrees, the forearm in neutral position. Now the hand that was palpating for the teres minus, I don't need it anymore. I'm gonna use it. Stabilize the distal of the humerus. Now can you bring your arm up again? Now I'm going to apply resistance. I'm gonna apply resistance, a minimal resistance, a mad, and a max, a 3 plus, a 4, and a 5. Now can you raise your arm up all the way? Now I'm gonna apply resistance on 3. 1, 2, 3. Apply 3 plus, 4, and 5. My patient external rotation, it's 5/5. Shoulder external rotation is 5/5. As my patient already in a position, I'm going to measure internal rotation of the shoulder. I'm going to measure internal rotation. It's the same thing, same procedure. Patient in prone position, shoulder abducted to 90 degrees, elbow flexed to 90 degrees, the forearm in neutral position. Now the thing that's changed now instead of find the teres minus, I'm gonna find the teres major, which is the bigger muscle. It's easy to feel. When the patient starts moving their arm, I can feel it. Now I'm going to stabilize. Now when I find it, I move the patient. My teres major, to find it, is on the border axillary of the scapula, which is my teres major right here. Now I'm going to stabilize the distal of the humerus, and I'm going to ask my patient to go like this. Now I'm going to palpate the muscle, the teres major, and stabilize the humerus. Now can you move your arm the way I just move it? All the way as you can. Okay, now I can let it go. Now my patient is 3/5 with gravity added. And now can my patient be more than that? I'm going to try to apply resistance to see what her grade is gonna be. Now I'm going to apply a 3 plus, a 4, and a 5. It's the same procedure. Patient is in prone position, shoulder abducted to 90 degrees, elbow 90 degrees, and the forearm in neutral position. I'm going to stabilize. I'm going to stabilize the humerus underneath, proximal to the elbow, distal to the humerus. Now I'm stabilize. Now can you bring your arm again? Now don't let me push you down, okay? Now I'm gonna apply resistance. Where I apply resistance, I'm gonna apply resistance distal to the forearm, proximal to the wrist. and I place my hand. I'm gonna apply resistance on 3. I'm gonna go 3 plus, can break it, 4, can break it, 5. My patient internal rotation is 5 out of 5. Now I change my patient position. I put my patient in sitting position so I can eliminate the gravity. Now I'm going to do 2 joints the same. I'm going to do the internal rotation and external rotation of the shoulder. Now I'm going to start with the internal rotation first. Now the internal rotation, shoulder adducted, elbow flex 90 degrees, the forearm in neutral position. Now when positioning my patient, I'm gonna palpate and find the teres major right here on the border axillary of the scapular, the teres major. Now what I'm going to do, when I found it, I'm going to put my finger on it, I'm going to palpate and observe. I'm going to stabilize the humerus, the distal part of the humerus proximal to the elbow, and I'm going to ask my patient to go all the way right here. Now when you're ready, that's what you're going to do, okay? I'm going to put my finger. I want to stay away so you can see the camera. All right. Now stabilize the humerus. Now can you go all the way as possible? Good. Now I can feel the muscle is working right there. The teres major is working. Now my patient is automatically no gravity added. My patient is the 2/5. Now can she be more than that? I'm going to check. Now the same position, shoulder adducted, elbow flex to 90 degrees, forearm in neutral position. Now I stabilize. Now the hands I was palpating, I'm gonna use it to apply the resistance. Now don't let me get you out. I'm going to apply minimal resistance, mild resistance, and max resistance. A 3 plus, a 4, and a 5. Now, I stabilize distal part of the humerus. I'm going to apply the resistance. I go on 3, and don't let me pull you out, okay? Resist as much as possible. Now, 1, 2, 3. 3 plus, 4. Now she break. Now patient with no gravity added, internal rotation of the shoulder is 2+/5. Is 2+/5. Now, as my patient is already in sitting position, no gravity added, I'm going to measure external rotation of the shoulder. Is the same procedure that I'm going to use. Shoulder adducted, the elbow bend 90 degrees, the forearm in neutral position. Now, instead, I'm going to find the teres minus, not the teres major this time. I'm going to find the teres minus in the border axillary of the scapula. They're close to teres minor and teres major. They're close together. Now, when I find it, I'm gonna palpate and observe, and I'm gonna ask my patient to go out this time. All right, I'm gonna put my finger on it. I'm gonna stabilize distal, the humerus. Hold on, let me come to this side, and you can still stay in the camera. Give it the freedom to move. Good, there we go. Now I stabilize the humerus, distal part of the humerus, and palpate the teres minor. Now can you move your arm out as much as possible? Good. Now I can feel the muscle is working, And based on that, no gravity added, my patient is a 2/5. 2/5. I'm going to apply resistance to see if she is more than that with no gravity. It's the same procedure, shoulder adapted, elbow flex 90 degrees, forearm in neutral position. I'm going to stabilize. Now I'm going to ask my patient if she can go all the way again. Now don't let me push you out, okay? I'm going to apply resistance distal to the forearm, proximal to the wrist. Now I'm going to apply resistance. When I say on 3, I'm going to apply the resistance. I'm going to apply resistance a 3 plus, a 4, and a 5 on 3. 1, 2, 3. Don't let me push you. 3 plus, 4. My patient is a 2 plus over 5 with no gravity added. Okay, now I'm going to measure wrist extension with radial deviation. First, my patient in sitting position, elbow flex, forearm in pronation, wrist in neutral position, and the finger are relaxed. Now I'm going to stabilize the forearm in the middle of the forearm. Now I have to find two tendons. I'm gonna find the 2 extensors, which is the extensor carpi radialis longus and the extensor carpi radialis brevis. Now to find these 2, the third and the second and the third metacarpal, I'm gonna follow along with them at the base of the metacarpal. This is my 2 extensors that I found. They are here. Now those are the 2 ones that I want to know if they work. Now I'm gonna ask my client, my patient, when to go right here and diagonally that way, which is gonna be the extension with radial deviation. Now I put my finger on it. Now the same way I just asked you not to do, can you go with your hands like this? Good. Now I feel the 2 tendons are working. Now I'm going, the patient is automatically against gravity. That's give my patient a 3 out of 5. Now can he be more than that? I'm going to check. I'm going to measure if he can be more than that. I'm going to apply resistance. Now the same way you did with your hands like that, I'm gonna apply resistance. You're gonna resist me, okay? Now I don't have to palpate and observe anymore because I know these 2, they work. The extensors, they work. I'm gonna apply resistance on the dorsal of the hand, close, proximal to the wrist. Now can you go back with your hands? Now I'm going to use my 3 finger and the third and second metacarpal. I'm going to apply the resistance going to wrist flexion, ulnar deviation. Now I'm going to apply the resistance. Don't let me push you down, okay? Go 3 plus, 4, 5. Good. My patient is really strong. Now I'm going to have to grade him a 5 out of 5. Now we're going to repositioning the patient. Is still wrist extension with radial deviation. Now I just positioned my patient to eliminate the gravity. My patient is still in sitting position. Now the forearm is going to be in neutral position, wrist in neutral position, the fingers are relaxed. I'm going to stabilize, the mid forearm, and I'm gonna look for the extensors, the extensor carpi radialis brevis, the extensor carpi radialis longus. Now to find them, I'll follow along with the second and the third metacarpal at the base of the metacarpal, the 2 tendons right here. I feel them. Now I'm gonna palpate and observe, and I'm gonna ask my patient to go wrist extension diagonally radial deviation. Now I have to explain to him to go here like that. Now with no gravity, I'm gonna stabilize and feel my two tendon. Okay, now can you go the same way I just showed you? Good. Now I feel the two extensors are working. My patient, no gravity added, my patient automatically is a 2/5. Now, can he be greater than that? I'm going to apply resistance. Where I'm going to apply resistance, I'm going to use my 3 finger. I'm going to apply resistance in the dorsal of the forearm and the dorsal of the hand, proximal to the wrist, proximal to the wrist of the dorsal of the hand, and the third and the second and the third metacarpal. Now I'm going to stabilize the same way you did before. You're gonna bring your hands like this and keep your finger extended. Now I'm going to apply the resistance. Now don't let me go. 3 plus 4. Okay, my patient break. He couldn't tolerate the 4. He tolerated the 3 plus. That's give my patient no gravity added. My patient is a 2+/5. All right, now I'm going to measure wrist flexion with radial deviation. Patient in sitting position, forearm in supination, wrist in neutral position, the fingers are relaxed. Now I'm going to stabilize the mid of the forearm. I'm gonna find the flexor carpi radialis. The tendon is gonna be the second metacarpal along. I'm gonna follow at the base of it, which is right here, right there. Now I'm gonna ask my patient to raise her hand that way and go towards that way. There we go, like that. Now what I'm gonna do when I stabilize, I find my tendon, the flexor carpi radialis, and I feel it right here. I'm gonna palpate and observe. Now can you go with your hand up and towards? There we go. Good. Relax. Now my patient, I feel the tendon. I feel the tendon. I palpate and observe and feel it. It's working. Now my patient automatically is a 3/5 with gravity. Now can my patient be more than that? I'm gonna apply some resistance to find out if I can grade him more than 3/5. Now I'm going to do the same procedure. Forearm in supination, the wrists are in neutral position and the fingers are relaxed, and I don't have to palpate for the muscle because I already know it's working. Now I'm gonna ask my patient to do the same movement you just did, right here, and go towards that way. And I will apply some resistance. Now I'm gonna put some force here. Don't let me push you down, okay? Now I'm gonna use my 3 finger. I'm gonna apply resistance. Where I'm going to apply the resistance, I'm going to apply resistance in between the metacarpal and the carpal bone. I'm gonna apply the resistance. I'm gonna do a 3, a 4, and a 5 to see the grade of my patient. Now can you go up with your arms like more like this? Now I apply the resistance. I'll go with 3 plus 4, 5, and good. My patient is really strong, and I can say based on that, against gravity, my patient wrist flexion with radial deviation is 5/5. Now I'm going to reposition my patient to eliminate the gravity. Patient is still in sitting position. The forearm is a neutral position in the border of the ulnar side on the table. Wrist in neutral position. The fingers are relaxed. All right. Let me use the other hand so you can see with the camera better. Now the forearm in neutral position in the ulnar border side, and the wrists are in neutral position. Now I'm going to stabilize. We're going to stabilize this time. I'm going to stabilize underneath the mid forearm, and I'm going to go against the second metacarpal, find the flexor carpi radialis, and feel it's working. Now my patient is going to go that way towards the thumb, in the flexion towards the thumb. Like that. Okay, now I'm gonna find if the flexor is working, the tendon is working. Now I'm gonna palpate and observe. Now can you go exactly the way I just showed you? Good. Now I can feel it, it's working. Relax. Now with gravity eliminated, my patient is a 2/5. Now I'm going to see if my patient is more than that when gravity is not added. Now I'm going to apply resistance. I'm going to use my 3 finger. I don't have to palpate to observe anymore because I know it's already working. I'm going to use my 3 finger. I'm going to apply resistance in between the carpal and the metacarpal. Between the carpal and the metacarpal. Now I'm going to stabilize the mid forearm and ask my patient to go flexion in radial deviation, and I'm going to apply resistance in the extension ulnar deviation. 3 plus a 4, my patient break. Now with no gravity, my patient is 2+/5. Now I'm going to measure the MCP flexion. Patient in sitting position, forearm in supination, wrist in neutral position. The MP extended, the IP flex. Now I'm going to stabilize. Proximal to the MC joint. Now I'm gonna palpate and observe the first interosseous muscle located to the medial distal aspect of the second metacarpal. Right here, you can feel it, the second metacarpal right here. Now when I feel it, I'm gonna ask my patient to go like this with your finger. Now I stabilize. Now we can relax. Go here. Now I still feel it. Now go ahead, go to flexion. Keep your finger straight. Now I can feel the muscle is working. Now I feel the muscle is working, meaning patient against gravity is a 3/5. Now, can my patient greater than that? Yes, I'm gonna check if I can grade him more than that. I'm going to apply resistance. Where I'm going to apply resistance, I don't have to palpate anymore because I know the muscle is working. Now I'm still gonna stabilize. The proximal to the MP joint. Now I'm gonna put resistance to see if my patient is greater than 3/5. I'm going to apply resistance. When you go like this again, I'm going to apply resistance. Don't let me push you down, okay? Now relax. Now where I'm going to apply resistance, I'm going to apply resistance in between the MCP joint and the DIP joint with my finger right here in between. Now can you go up? Now stabilize as much as possible. Use my finger. Can you go keep it straight? And I'm gonna apply the resistance. It's a 3 plus 4, 5, still not break. Okay, now my patient against gravity, the MCP joint is 5/5. Now I'm going to change my patient position it's still the same. Now instead of supination, the forearm is in neutral position, wrist in neutral position, the fingers are relaxed. Now the MP is extended and the IP is going to be flex, and the MC is extended. Now I'm going to palpate and observe the first dorsal interossei muscle to the medial distal aspect of the second metacarpal. Right here, I feel it. Now I stabilize the MCP proximal to the joint that's being measured in the palm of the hand. I stabilize, and I'm gonna ask my patient to go with the DIP extended or going that way. Now I feel the muscle. Can you go that way? No, like this. You're gonna go like that, like extend. Okay. Now I feel it. Go ahead. Good. Now I feel the muscle is working. Now my patient automatically with gravity eliminated, my patient is 2/5. Now I'm going to apply resistance to see if my patient is more than that. Where I'm going to apply resistance, I'm going to apply resistance in between the MC and the PIP joint. I'm going to apply the resistance. Now position my patient the same way. Patient is in flex. Now I'm going to apply the resistance and stabilize. Now go 3 plus 4 and patient break. Now my patient is a 2+/5. Now I'm going to do PIP flexion, the PIP flexion. Now to do the PIP flexion, now my patient is still in sitting position, shoulder adducted, elbow flex, the full supination of the forearm. Now the wrist is in neutral position, the MP is extended, the IP is extended. Now I'm going to palpate and stabilize at the same time. I'm gonna palpate to observe the flexor digitorum superficial, but where I'm gonna to stabilize, I'm gonna stabilize the MP and feel and palpate and observe when my patient go to flexion for the flexor digitorum superficial. Now when my patient is going to flex, the DIP have to stay in extension. I'm gonna feel and observe. Now I stabilize, and can you go to flexion the way I just saw it? Good. Now my patient did that. I feel the flexor is working. Now the patient against gravity is automatically a 3/5. Now as my patient is 3/5, my patient can be more than that. Now I'm gonna apply the resistance. Now where I'm going to apply the resistance, I'm going to apply the resistance in between the DIP and the PIP joint, in the middle right here. I'm still gonna stabilize the MP joint right here, and my patient go flex, and I'm gonna apply the resistance. Go 3 plus 4, 5, still not breaking. Okay, good. My patient is really strong. The PIP flexion is 5/5. It's 5/5. Now I'm going to change my patient position to eliminate the gravity, repositioning. Now patient is still in sitting position, elbow flex, the forearm in neutral position, the wrist in neutral. Now the MP is gonna be extended, the IP is extended. Now I'm going to stabilize and palpate and observe for the flexor digitorum superficial. Now where I'm going to stabilize, in between the MP and the PIP joint and feel the flexor if it's working. Now my patient is gonna flex the PIP joint with the DIP extended. You're gonna go like this. Now to feel it, okay, when I go, tell you to go, you go. Now I stabilize and palpate and observe at the same time. Go ahead with your finger like this. Good. Now I can feel the flexor, it's working. The flexor digital superficial, it's working. Now my patient is automatically is a 2/5 with gravity eliminated. Now I'm going to check if my patient can be greater than that. I'm going to apply resistance. Where I'm going to apply resistance, I'm going to use my finger. When I apply resistance in between the DIP and the PIP joint, in the middle of them, in between them. Now my patient is gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna stabilize. Now you go to flexion. I'm gonna apply resistance. Now I go to 3, 4. Patient break. Now my patient with no gravity added, my patient is 2+/5. Now I'm going to measure the DIP flexion. Now to measure the DIP flexion, my patient shoulder in sitting position, shoulder adducted, the elbow flex, the forearm in full supination. Forearm in full supination. I don't know if you can see it. Forearm in full supination. The IP is extended, the MC is extended. Now I'm going to use a 3-draw truck to stabilize and palpate at the same time. Now where I'm going to stabilize, I'm going to stabilize between the DIP and the PIP joint, and I'm gonna feel with my thumb the flexor digitorum profundus to see if the flexor is working. While my patient is gonna flex the DIP joint, you're going to flex the tip of your finger right here, this part on this one only. Okay. Now I stabilize. You can see it. Okay. Now I stabilize and palpate. I stabilize the DIP and the PIP joint and palpate at the same time for the flexor digitorum profundus. Now can you good. Now I know the flexor is working. Now based on what I did against gravity, my patient is automatically a 3/5. Now can my patient be greater than that? I'm gonna have to apply resistance to find out if she can be greater than that. Now I'm going to apply the resistance. It's the same procedure that I use. Shoulder adducted, elbow flex, forearm in full supination, IP extended. The IP is extended, the MC is extended. Now I apply the resist. Now I stabilize. Now the between the DIP and the PIP joint. Now patient flex. I'm gonna apply resistance. Don't let me push it down. Resist. Now I go at 3+4 and 5. My patient is 5/5. Now I'm changing the position. I'll just change to eliminate the gravity. Now my patient is still in sitting position. I'm going to measure DIP flexion, but no gravity added. My patient is in sitting position, shoulder adducted, elbow flex, forearm in neutral position, wrist in neutral position. The MPs are extended, the MP are extended, the IPs are extended. Now I'm going to stabilize. And palpate at the same time. I'm gonna palpate for the flexor digitorum profundus. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my 3 finger. I'm gonna stabilize in between the DIP and the PIP joint, so to allow only flexion of the DIP joint. I'm gonna apply and palpate at the same time, feel the flexor digitorum profundus, and I'm gonna ask my patient to go like this, to flex the DIP. You're gonna flex this part of your finger. Now I stabilize and palpate at the same time to see if the flexor is working. Now go ahead, flex. Now I can feel it. Now I stabilize my patient with no gravity added. My patient is the 2 over 5. Now I'm going to see if my patient can beat more than that. If my patient can beat more than 2 over 5. Now I'm going to apply resistance. Where I'm going to apply resistance, I'm going to stabilize in between the DIP and the PIP joint, and I'm going to apply to the distal part of the phalange and apply the resistance. Now I use the three finger right here, stabilize, allow only the joint, the DIP to flex. Now can you flex your finger again? Now I'm gonna apply the resistance. I go use only one finger, apply resistance, the 3 plus 4, patient break at 4. Now my patient with no gravity added, she's a 2 plus over 5. I'm gonna have to grade her 2 plus over 5. And thank you for listening. Thank you for watching my video.